Thank you. Okay, next we've got enhanced ATCPT training.
Do you want to click or do you want me to click?
Mark?
Do you want to click?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to just reiterate some of the comments that my colleague made as far as I am certainly excited to be here and the opportunity to network with some of the folks in the other projects and certainly from industry and the FAA has been a great opportunity. As a matter of fact, listening to the first group, and when I get to my presentation, we're going to be doing a lot of the similar things. And so I said we might have to think about working together on this so that, as we know, air traffic controllers and supervisors and managers, probably one of the last things that they want to work on is getting a lot of outside work to have to do because they have enough of their own. But anyway, one of the things, this particular project is going to be dealing with CPC enhanced training. And I'm sure most of you, certainly if you are in the air traffic field, know that air traffic controllers are highly trained, obviously going through the academy, then on to their facility for OJT training. For some facilities, this could take 2 or 3 years. But once a controller is fully certified, becomes a CPC, certified professional controller, then what happens? Okay. Well, obviously, their training continues. And so that's the area that we're going to be looking at with our project. And I'm a former air traffic controller, as are members of our team. So we kind of have an understanding that as a rule, as a general rule, controllers hate to do training after they've been certified. It's one of the things that they know is a necessity, but it's not something that they necessarily enjoy doing. So the FAA obviously is looking at this, and we're going to be looking at this as a project to find out, okay, what can we do to maybe make this better, enhance it? So we're working with Embry-Riddle University, Aeronautical University, along with University of North Dakota, working together. And as an industry partner, we have Washington's Consultant Group also. I'm also in the process of soliciting from other industry partners. So if you think you might be interested in this particular project, certainly feel free to come up or sometime today, talk to me about it. My slide is also outdated, as was John's, because we now have Bob on our team, or as our sponsor, so we're excited about that. We get to actually see him, and we haven't hopefully chased him off to retire here in the next year or so. So hope you're around there for a little while, Bob. So proficiency training. This is, if you're familiar with FAA Order 3120.4, this explains to the facilities and so forth what type of training is required for controllers after they're fully certified. And there's 4 areas that they look at: recurrent training, proficiency training, or excuse me, refresher training, supplemental training, and skill enhancement training. So we're going to be looking at these various areas, and they encompass different things. Recurrent training could be lost comms, and there's thunderstorms, things that controllers may not necessarily deal with every day. So the FAA wants the controllers to stay current with those kind of things, so they do that. Refresher training here again, so along similar lines, maybe unusual situations, emergencies. Thankfully, controllers don't necessarily handle emergencies every day, so they want them to be at least get some recurrent or supplemental training, refresher training in that area, so that they hopefully will be able to handle those situations without too much difficulty. Supplemental training, obviously there's new equipment that's being brought online all the time, especially when we're dealing with next-gen technologies. And this is one of the areas that I know the FAA is looking at, striving closely at, as more of these new technologies like ERAM, if you're en route, and some of the new flow management programs and things come online, they want the controllers to have a good understanding of, you know, how does this stuff work? How does this equipment affect what I do and maybe the sectors or the areas next to us? So we're going to be looking at those kind of things. So basically each type of training here has their certain amount of issues. So that's one of the first things that we would like to look at, which kind of plows into project number 1. So in looking at it, We're going to be looking at training content. We'd like to know what is nationally developed by the FAA for those various 4 different areas of training. We're going to take a close look at that, assess that, and then we want to look at individual facilities and what they, what kind of information, what kind of training that they provide to their controllers, you know, at a facility level. It's going to be a pretty big job. And then that's the first half of our project. Then the second half is there a way that we can provide this in a better format? Years ago as a controller, and I know for those of you who were controllers over the time, you know, a lot of the training involved where the supervisor would come up with a handout dealing with thunderstorms and say, here, read this. Okay, you did it. We check mark the box. You're good. Go back to your position, you know. But how much information did the controller truly get out of that, or how much benefit did the controller really get out of that? So that's one of the things that we would like to look at is there maybe a better method of presenting this training? Is there a better technique? And so that's where, you know, dealing with these various different types of things, this is what we want to look at. And then we want to start looking at industry. This is where the industry partners would come in. We want to start, okay, the FAA typically, and no offense to the FAA because I was in it too, can sometimes be a little behind the times as far as how they present some of the training. So what is industry doing out there? What are they doing? Are they, you know, more cutting edge? They might be a little more nimble as far as being able to develop new techniques and styles for training. You know, so we want to take a serious look at that. So basically, we've broken it up into 4 tasks, and I'm only going to cover part of these. The first task, like I said, we'd like to try to do an assessment of the current FAA's training, you know, advanced training. And I just want to make sure we're clear, we're not talking about initial training here. We're not talking about the actual training of the controllers to be certified. So this is training that's happens after they are certified. So one of the things that we're proposing is also going out to facilities, doing an electronic survey, same thing, dealing with how facilities do their training, what kind of training do they do, how effective. We would like to talk to supervisors, we'd like to talk to training managers and say, how effective do you think this training is? Do you feel that your workforce is getting the true benefit of this training? And if not, okay, then what maybe can we do to make it better? And then we'd like to go out to the workforce itself and find out, you know, do you feel like you're getting the training after you're certified that you need to do your job? You know, or do you feel like maybe a different type or style or way of doing training would be most beneficial to you? So those are some of the areas that we would like to look at initially with the workforce. And then go outside the FAA. Like I said, we would, you know, do research and find out what some of the new techniques and methods for training. The third one then, and we've been asked this, obviously money is always going to be an issue, certainly with the FAA, so we want to try to find out, okay, is there a way that we can provide this training, you know, at the same time be cost effective? You know, how effective would it be if we could do some of this training through the academy? And I'm not necessarily referring sending every controller out to the academy, but maybe the FAA Academy can develop national training where then they could do either some kind of a webinar or something that facility, so that would, you know, hopefully standardize some of that training, but at the same time present it in a way that, you know, the controllers can truly get a benefit from. So that's an area that we want to look at. And then basically wrap it all up and hopefully make recommendations to the FAA as far as, you know, what they can do to, like I said, enhance CPC training. So this is just basically what, you know, how it's done now, you know, what are some of the accomplishments, how effective is the training. So these are some of the things that through our survey and through, you know, talking with the workforce, we'd like to try to find out. We want to hit all, you know, training managers, first line managers. You know, we understand that sometimes it's the first line manager, those supervisors who can tell us, you know, yes, this training is effective. I see when these controllers do this work that it relates to what they're doing on the floor. So that's why we'd definitely like to talk to them, and then we'd also like to talk to the controllers and see what they think. And we understand this is going to be a pretty arduous process to try to get through all this, but we're going to do our best. As with the first group, we have areas that we can, obviously, Central Florida or Florida itself is an area that we can cover, and I know I've talked to some of you out here. There's 8 in my family that are air traffic controllers, so I could do my own internal survey with my family and just find out how things are going, so that could be a start. But we have, obviously, with the University of North Dakota, we could cover places up in the Dakotas and Minnesota. We also have one of our members who's from the Detroit area, so we figured Michigan could be a good area. And then in talking with Bob, he said, make sure you don't forget Lincoln, Nebraska. So we won't forget them either. But here's the members of our team, and as you can see, the first few of us are all retired air traffic controllers, so we've been there, we've done that, we've gone through some of this proficiency training that the FAA requires, so we are fairly familiar with what it is that they're looking for. And then obviously we're not experts in some of the curriculum design and the methods, so that's why we're looking at experts in those areas, bringing those in. So I have some of my cohorts and coworkers here, including a couple that are, like I said, education and learning specialists. And of course, we have the illustrious Ned Reese also on our project. So thanks, Ned, for helping us. And as I said, I'm looking for any other industry partners, especially if you're dealing with methods of training and so forth. I would be very interested in talking with you. But thank you very much.